Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
Even with new money in place, DHS contractors are still dealing with delays, restart friction, and gaps left by the shutdown, showing just how long it can take for funding to translate into real execution. Here to walk us through how the department is responding is CEO of the Professional Services Council, Jim Carroll. Jim, it's great to have you back. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Terry. It's always wonderful to be with you.
Well, resources are always top of mind when you and I talk. The Senate NDAA language has just dropped recently. Do you have any hot takes for us on that?
Boy, what a week it's been, right? Terry, I have to say, I think I'm looking forward to, and I know you are, and I know our listeners are, when the summer recess actually comes, I think we'll all be able to take a breath. The NDAA Senate language was released this week. Obviously, there's a lot in there. And I think we'll certainly be wearing out some shoe leather going back and forth to Capitol Hill with some of these provisions. Some of them, we think we'll be very supportive of. And some, I think, might need some tweaking, as we like to say. And so I think it'll be a busy few weeks before it actually gets to the floor. And Terry, as you know, we're still sort of waiting for a lot of the House language to come in. And then we'll have a better sense of what's going on.
Well, as you're pondering that important legislation, let's talk a little bit about the Department of Homeland Security. We've been following the funding travails there, and they finally got their appropriations. But it wasn't easy, and it caused a lot of disruption for the contractors who work in that sector. What are you hearing now that the appropriations bill has been signed?
Again, Terry, I have to say that sentence of "it's been a busy time." I think like we've been saying that for the last year and a half, and certainly as it relates, especially to DHS. So I was over at DHS last week and had some meetings there about contractors and what they're doing. Actually had the chance just to say hi and real quickly to the secretary himself. And Terry, you know how you always love gossip news. Do you want some inside gossipy news about Secretary Markwayne Mullins?
Oh, spill the tea. Go ahead.
Okay, this is secret. Don't tell anyone that I am the one spilling the tea on this. But it was, as you all recall, like 100 degrees. It was a Friday afternoon, and the secretary did not have a tie on. And he said that he kept his rule from the Hill that if it's over 100 degrees and it's a Friday, he does not like to wear a tie. So they're breaking news. I don't know how you want to release that, but that's some good gossip right there.
Well, Jim, thanks for keeping us up to date on that. But where's the secretary on his $100,000 contract review rule?
Yeah, we did. The rest of our meetings at DHS went well. They very much, I think they are relieved, quite frankly. The people with whom we met, they know this created burdens not only for them, but for contractors. And so the lifting of that, we're very pleased that they understood that creates real concerns. And now with a reconciliation bill, the contractor community really does need DHS to step up and start delivering. The companies that do work for DHS have really been under enormous financial strain. And with the reconciliation bill, hopefully we'll get the contractors reimbursed for the work that they've already done, and they have already paid their employees. And so we're very optimistic about that. And, the contractors need that, Terry. It's like any business. You can't operate under, day-to-day concerns. You need some stability. And in the conversations we had with the business workforce and the very, very brief conversation with the secretary, they understand that the companies that perform work for the country through DHS are really an integral part. Terry, as we saw, the Homeland Security encompasses so much. At the beginning of the week, remember we saw the news about a disruption of a possible attack in D.C. at the fight that took place. Our contractors are sitting side by side in the Intel and DHS box, analyzing information, going through information. And so, these are the programs that could have been impacted if the contractors were not able to perform. And so whether it's airport security, disaster preparedness as we're coming into hurricane season, these are what our contractors want to perform for the American taxpayer. And so we're very happy that DHS is lifted the $100,000 rule and committed to working with our companies. And like I said, just the mere fact that they wanted meetings with us is a really good sign.
Jim Carroll is the executive director of the Professional Services Council. Jim, this latest funding bill for DHS, though, really only solves the problem for CBP and ICE. It's multi-year funding there, but the rest of DHS is going to have to go through the regular appropriations process in just a few more months. Are you sensing in any way that contractors are getting cautious about committing to work with DHS given the uncertainty of their funding?
I think that, boy, the fact that you say just a couple of months, really, it sort of bursts the bubble there, Terry, of what just happened with reconciliation. But that topic did come up naturally, that this is a stopgap until we get to later this fall. I think the hope is the capital P political issues that prevented some of this from going forward, that with the reconciliation, with some of the willingness to make political changes, that there will be some success in actually getting this encompassed with all of the other departments that need funding, that there won't be another breakout just for DHS. And the companies are aware within DHS that perform that work that there's never certainty, and there never is in life, right? Except, death and taxes are the only two things we can ever count on. And so I think we're all feeling optimistic. I think the secretary very much understands this, and some of the other people understand this. And so someone's going to win the FIFA tournament, and sometime DHS is going to get funded. And so that's what we're going to operate under.
All right, we'll join you in the optimism there and keep our fingers crossed. But let's change the topic for just a minute. The foreign ownership control or interest, FOCI rule. It used to be something only cleared contractors worried about, but there's a new version of it. Tell us what you're watching there.
Yeah, what we're seeing is that the Trump administration is planning to review, rewrite, amend the FOCI rule, and what Congress really intends to do with this and how they want to implement it. The concern is that these regulations will put an undue burden on small businesses that can contract with the federal government. And we certainly understand and appreciate the value of national security, but defense contractors do a lot of work for not only the U.S., but a lot do. The small companies also do work. In fact, one out of every 4 contractors for the Department of War goes to a small business, and small businesses make up 70% of the defense industrial base. And so the way that this is implemented, the FOCI rule, there is a concern that I have about small businesses being unfairly impacted on this. And there's already been a decline in the last few years of some of the small companies where a lot of good people work and do wonderful things. And so I think that we'll see what happens. Congress, as you know, took this up earlier. They had hearings on this. We expect more hearings, sort of across the board, but on this issue as well. And so that is one of those issues that representing our small businesses, making sure that their concerns are heard. And so, like I said, Terry, we're wearing out our shoe leather, working Capitol Hill to make sure that everyone understands the impact of what they're doing as we try to support the effort, making sure that no one is unfairly impacted by it. And, at PSC, we're constantly, working with the administration or the Hill to sort of talk about, the issues that matter the most. With 400 companies, the leading trade association for this issue, for government contractors, so many issues from small to large come up and are important to our members.
So, Jim, on this FOCI rule, are you sensing that there's still room for negotiation, or is this something that folks just need to prepare for?
I'm always hopeful. Come on, Terry. There's always room for negotiation. Never say quit. We're absolutely, still engaged in conversations up there, and we'll look forward to seeing if there are any space for making a few tweaks to level the playing field. And so, no, I'm always optimistic. That's why we're in DC, right?
Well, you've got a conference coming up where you guys can share this kind of information, right?
Absolutely. Our acquisition conference is coming up in just a week on June 25th. And so we're very excited. We have a great lineup of speakers for that. And we've just really been bringing our members to meetings. And whether it's the acquisition conference, where our members can have direct engagement with government leaders, decision makers. We've been doing small business meetings as well. I think we've now met with everyone but one of the undersecretaries at the Department of War. That one's being scheduled. We're now having requests coming back from the Department of War for more meetings. The Department of Energy is interested in doing a reverse industry day with our members. And so we're going to have a very busy summer. And like I said, Terry, maybe August is coming, but it seems like a long way off.
Jim Carroll is the Executive Director of the Professional Services Council. Jim, it's always great to talk with you.
Thank you, Terry.
We'll post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Subscribe to the Federal Drive wherever you get your podcasts.